Hello, all, and welcome to All Red. Are you FSG out or are you FSG in? That's the debate we're going to have. I'm going to have it today with our London Red resident. It's Aaron back on the show. Aaron, how are you today?
I'm good, mate. Yeah. Looking forward to this conversation. I'm excited by this one, Sam.
Yeah, me too. So I am FSG in. Aaron is FSG out. Now these are not roles that we just picked. These are legitimate. Like I am happy with FSG. Now, not perfect. And Aaron is a realist, and I think I am a little bit too, but Aaron's a realist and says it's time for FSG to move on. So, Aaron, we're going to have a debate here. Is it truly time for FSG to say we're done, we're going to sell Liverpool, or are FSG just getting started? Are they going to build on what they've done over the last 15 years with Liverpool? So, where do we start here, Aaron? I'd like to hear first and foremost your side of the story. Why are you FSG out?
I think it's very black and white, isn't it? FSG in or FSG out. But history is not painting a very pretty picture. For me, I look a lot at who Liverpool are, what they've won, the history. And we are massive. We're a huge club. We're in the top 5 biggest brands in world football, up there with your Barcelonas, your Real Madrids, your Manchester United, etc. Yeah. But we do not act like a big club. Yeah, we do not act like a top 5 club in world football. And when I say that, it's not necessarily just about going out and splashing the cash, but there's surgery. It's minor surgery. It's not major surgery with this squad, but there is minor surgery needed with this squad that we have currently. Everybody can see it. The manager can see it because he identified certain positions. Mm-hmm. The fans have seen it for a while. And when we sold Fabinho, Henderson, and basically the whole midfield and brought in 4 players in the following window, none of which hit that number 6 role, everyone was like, well, the next window. Yeah. And I think there's been a lot of broken promises from FSG. They tell us about how much money they make. Yeah, which is great. And I love that Liverpool are in a financially really secure position. Yeah. And actually our future under their tenure it looks fruitful. My only issue is I'm not supporting the financial structure. I'm supporting the team. Yeah. I want to see the team do well. And I fear in the next year, let's say, the likes of Trent, the likes of Virgil van Dijk, the likes of Salah, and potentially Alisson, they go out the door. Yeah, if they don't renew contracts, which we're now 10 months away from, these potentially leaving the club, and up until January they can start negotiating new contracts with another club, and they don't even have to tell the club that who's come in for them. I think this is an issue. We could end up next season without any world-class players because all 4 world-class players will have left the club potentially. Yep. And I find it negligent on behalf of FSG that they've allowed this to happen. And selling the kids, it feels very like they want money in and they want to look after this really good, healthy bank balance and secure us for many, many, many more years to come without putting the money back into the club. I just want to see my club. I want to see my club win things, because I'm used to winning things. Yeah. But we had a period, Tom Gillett and Hicks, FSG in comparison to Tom Gillett and Hicks, night and day. Yeah. A great ownership in comparison to Tom Gillett and Hicks. Yeah. But I want more. I'm not being greedy. I'd like to see Liverpool go out. They need 1 or 2 players to compete this season. And I think it's to not give Arne Slot that little nudge to give him the ability to have what could potentially be a really good season. Right. I just think it's very disappointing.
So, I hear all those points. I think they're all good points. And as listen, I'm not like, I love FSG so much. I want them to own the club forever. But I look at them in contrast to the rest of European football clubs. And I say to myself, if I could pick another ownership group to come in and run Liverpool, who would I choose? And we can look at this list here, Aaron, of in the past, this is the past 15 years. So since 2010, these are the top 14 clubs in Europe as far as spending. And I think a lot of FSG out versus FSG in is financial related, right? It's how much are our owners willing to invest in the club. Um, and I think to myself, well, who would I want to come in and own and run Liverpool? I don't think there's another ownership group in England I would choose.
Mm,
You look at some of the other clubs, and Newcastle's not even on this list, but the way that Newcastle has been run with their new owners who have kind of unlimited funds, they're in a big mess. They might be decent this year, but they haven't been great. They got Champions League football one season, and last year was a disaster. Chelsea are a joke.
mm,
Manchester United are awful. And you look at not just the squads of these clubs, but Aaron, you mentioned yesterday, you go to Old Trafford, the leaks in the roofs there. I mean, they haven't
mm,
fixed roof leaks. Stamford Bridge, the holistic state of some of these clubs is not great. Hey, Man City, maybe you say, well, Man City, they've clearly been the most successful club in England the last 10 years. They're facing 115 potential charges, Aaron.
mm.
I wouldn't want that. If that was my club right now, I'd be sweating. I'd be like, what's going to happen? Are we going to lose our club as it is? Like, are we going to be, relegated into oblivion? Um, Arsenal, you might have a point there. Like they've been spending clearly more than us the past couple of years, and they're ahead of us currently. At the same time, what have they got to show for it? Nothing. I mean, an FA Cup was it last year,
Yeah,
2 years
that's
ago?
it. Yeah.
Um,
It's not only
so
that
I,
though. It's not only that though, Sam. Is it? I think it's great having a great stadium, yeah, and it's great having a great training facility. But if you've got no world class players and you haven't got a good enough squad to compete in the league,
mhm.
and I'm saying in a year or two you lose your best players and you don't replenish the squad, you end up in a situation where we become the new Spurs. We
True.
start battling. We start battling for top six, top eight. We no longer become a force in football, and to buy or develop them world class players again, it's both timely and costly. And if they're not prepared to put the cash in, how do we achieve that?
I totally agree. And if FSG is on this kick of like, hey, we're gonna slowly get rid of all of our most expensive players, whether that's like not re-signing them or selling them, and we're just gonna pocket the cash and hope that the club just coasts along. Maybe they get top four, maybe we get Europa League, but really we just want to see profits. If that's the case, then by all means, I will be FSG out. Um, I haven't seen that as a long-term strategy, right? Like if they didn't bring in the players they brought in last summer after they sold our complete, and by the way, aging midfield, it was time for most of those players, if not all of them, to go. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we did pretty well on the sales because of the Saudi league. But if they didn't bring in McAllister, Soboslai, Gravenberg, Endo last season, I'd be on the same train as you, Aaron. I'm like, what are you guys like? How are you expecting to compete now? As an FSG in guy, like someone who is generally satisfied with the way they run our club,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I do want to see signings, Aaron. I think if they get to the end of this summer without a single signing, that's a really bad look. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they've got a plan. Everything's
Mm-hmm.
great. I do have a theory on that, by the way, and that is if you look at Liverpool in the past 10 years, the type of business we've been able to do in January transfer windows has been quite remarkable. And I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to say, all right, we've got a pretty deep squad as it stands right now. Sure, there's gaps. Sure, we'd like another player or two. But what if we made it to January and Slot has a decent start to his tenure? And now in January, we're able to say, okay, now these gaps are very clear. Hey, what if Gravenberch is actually a decent number six? What if Darwin Nunez is the flop that a lot of people think he is. Okay, now we're going to go and we're going to say, all right, maybe the number 6 position isn't the biggest priority. We need a striker. We're going to go out and get a striker. We're going to spend that 60, 70 million on Gyökeres, instead of bringing in that defensive midfielder. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm glad they haven't made a single signing this summer. I think they need to do that. But, look at the, I think some of it is rumor. They were willing to pay the full release clause for Zubimendi. They were willing to triple his salary. This is not FSG is too stingy. That's why Zubimendi didn't want to come. I think a lot of people are looking at that and using it as an excuse to say, John W. Henry, get out of my club. We don't want you here anymore. You're not willing to do what it takes. He was willing to do what it takes. He was willing to write that check. The spending, yes, Liverpool, I do agree with you. I mean, you look at this list here. The English clubs were behind: Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. Obviously, the cities and the Chelseas are just unrealistic. And I doubt Manchester City's expenditures are that low, 2.3 billion.
We don't need that, though. We don't need that.
No, we don't need that.
For me, I'm not asking that as well. For me, are we going for players that are unachievable? Because we tend to get a lot of rejections.
It's true.
Now, is this a tactic that when we do get rejected, we walk away and we say, well, we tried?
Yeah.
Because this is what it feels like a little bit.
Yeah.
We went for Caicedo when Chelsea had pretty much done all of the legwork and had an agreement with him. He goes to Chelsea. We had Lavia as a backup. As soon as we turned our attention to Caicedo, Lavia was out the door. He was gone to Chelsea as well.
Yeah.
Now, that was already, Lavia was there. I know Lavia's had a terrible season last season with injuries. Now we've gone to Zubimendi, who's turned everyone else down because he supports Real Sociedad. He's played his whole career at Real Sociedad. He's now turned us down.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? There's never a plan B, which is one of my issues. We're told that number 6 this year it's happening. We need a number 6. Yeah. And we haven't had a number 6 since Fabinho. Fabinho left a long time ago now.
Yep.
Yeah. And we haven't we replaced him with a 31-year-old, who Endo has done a great job, by the way. And I love Endo. I think under Slot's regime, he doesn't move the ball quick enough, unfortunately. He needs to kind of sort his feet out a little bit. And, he can only pass really the direction he's facing. But as a destroyer, he plays with a gum shield on for a reason. This guy is, he's ready for war, this guy,
Yeah.
But that's my opinion. This is my opinion. I don't know, it probably won't sit well with a lot of Liverpool fans. But I'm just not being comfortable with what they do in the transfer market. I don't think they do enough.
Yeah, and I think you're going about it a reasonable way, Aaron. And let me ask you this. So I think it's reasonable to say, all right, Trent, Virgil, Salah, Alisson, why would they sign another long-term contract right now when maybe they're waiting to see what the club does? And I'm not saying like, oh, how many signings are you going to do? If you don't do enough, I'm not coming back. But more on a contractual basis, right? Like, like what if they do bring in Zubimendi, or they were willing to give Zubimendi a certain amount per week? Well, as a player, if I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold, I kind of want to know what that is. What's the market? That happens a lot here in the States with different sports, where like you're kind of waiting to test the waters and see like how much can I get. As a player, like there's nothing wrong with that. So transfer window closes. They're able to see, all right, what did other players get at other clubs? How much should I expect? What's my market value? Okay, I'm going to sign a contract now. I mean, there's rumors out there that Trent is going to be on 300K a week. I don't know how substantial those rumors are. There's rumors that Virgil van Dijk, all parties involved want an extension. They want it to happen. They're working towards getting that happening. I don't know what happens with Salah. He's getting older. Do they sign him and sell him? I don't know. And then Alisson is the one where I'm like, I feel like Alisson's got years left of quality service. Goalkeeper age, like he could play till he's 36, 37.
Easily.
So I don't know. I'm of the mindset of like, okay, let's be patient and see. Like, hey, if we get to January and there's still no resolution on on those contracts, yeah, that's a problem. Like, what do you guys do? What's my Richard Hughes doing? What is he doing right now? Like, I would hope Richard Hughes is working hard to find some alternatives here, even though they said, "Oh, we're not going to go out." I think that's probably a smokescreen. I think that's their way of saying, like, all right, we're going to do some background work here. We don't want other clubs knowing we're desperate. That's not good for negotiations.
Hmm.
Um, and at the same time, like I said, it would be a bad look to sign no players. Would it be the end of the world? No, because we'd have that January transfer window where, by the way, other clubs have been spending. United have spent 150. Chelsea have spent over 150. Arsenal spent quite a bit. Um, those teams now in January will not have the resources we have to go strengthen a side to make maybe a title run. So that's worked well for us in the past. Virgil van Dijk, Luis Suarez. I mean, the list is long of players we've been able to attract and get in those January transfer windows when the needs have been assessed, after the first half of the season. So I guess, Aaron, I'm more of I probably lean more towards the middle on this, where I'm not like, oh, FSG can do no wrong. They've run our club perfectly. No, they've made mistakes. The Super League, massive mistake. Trying to
Hmm.
increase ticket prices, massive mistake. Not perfect by any means. I think my FSG in mentality just comes from the state of our club, the health of our club. I think we are one of, if not the most healthiest clubs in England at the moment, with the way that they've been able to reduce and get rid of debt. The debt that, I mean, we were drowning in debt 15 years ago. We were about ready to liquidate the club. Um, and the way they've come in and set these financial principles, really,
Hmm.
I think has made the club very healthy. And obviously, we've seen the club flourish. Some of that you could say is like, well, it's just the magic of Klopp, and FSG got lucky with that one. Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say. But why not? Why not also on the other side of that say, hey, they were the owners that brought Klopp in, and we saw a lot of success. We were more successful than we were for the previous 30 years. Um, Now, why not give them a chance to go into this next regime and see what magic can happen here with Slot and Hughes and Edwards? Um, I, for one, am excited at that prospect.
Could I ask you a couple of questions, Sam?
Please.
How do you think Slot feels um, not having that sort of transfer or them few transfers in to bolster
Yeah.
his team when the team has needed it for a couple of years? I know they sorted out the midfield to an extent. They haven't finished the midfield because they're still missing that number six.
Right.
I think if they brought in one number six, that midfield looks good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I you
How
know
do you
I
think he
can.
feels? Do you think he's been
Yeah.
supported?
So I think Arne Slot was brought in for a couple different reasons. One of the reasons was his ability to work with the talent that he has at his disposal. If you look at his tenure at Feyenoord,
Hmm.
what was his biggest signing was like David Henko for 6 million euros, um, and yet he was able to win
Good player,
a
by the
League
way.
Cup
Good player.
there. Yeah, good player. His ability to use wisely the resources he has at his disposal, I think, was a big draw for Michael Edwards, for Richard Hughes, for FSG. Um, I think any manager would say, yeah, we always want to be strengthening the squad. We always want to be, going after the best players in the world. Um, if Arne Slot could go out and sign Zubamendi, or, ridiculous example, but if City go down and Rodri's available, of course you're going to want to go get the best players in the world.
Hmm.
Um, and so I don't think there's this like closed door mentality where Richard Hughes is sitting in his office and Arne Slot's sitting in his office, and they're angry at each other because Arne Slot's not getting the talent he needs. I think it's a very collaborative thing, and I think Arne Slot is the type of manager that is going to ebb and flow really well with the ups and downs of transfer windows.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know. Like, we don't know if Arne Slot has been the one basically telling Hughes, like, we don't need a lot of reinforcements right now. Trust me on this. We've got Trey Neone, we've got Gravenberch.
I would agree with that. We don't need lots of resources. We need, if we walked out of this window with 2 players, and I'm not counting Marbadashvili in that equation.
Right, right.
If we walked out with 2 players, we give ourselves that little bit more chance of being able to compete in the top 4.
Oh yeah,
and push the likes of an Arsenal
100%.
and Man City. And listen, Chelsea have strengthened, but I still feel Chelsea have signed too many players. I think they won't be able to put that puzzle together.
Too many players, new manager. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
January's a minefield because you pay the premium with it being January as well. And then potentially you go for a player who's good enough to play for Liverpool to replace Darwin Núñez, and he already plays in the Champions League, and then he is cup tied. So
Sure.
The benefit is the league only.
Sure.
You know, so these are my questions. And I did have one more question for you as well, actually, Sam. Do you feel like we act like a big club? Do you feel that Liverpool Football Club acts in the Premiership and in European football like a big club, or do we penny pinch?
I will answer that with a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is it healthy to act like a quote unquote big club? If you look at the quote unquote big clubs in England, you could say it's City, Chelsea, Arsenal, United, Tottenham, maybe the way that they spend. Do I want to act like those other clubs? Not necessarily. I mean, City have been the only other club in England with more success over the last 10 years. And we all know the situation there and the way that they spend and, potentially, allegedly, the issues that are coming their way because of that. So I don't know if I want to necessarily act like a quote unquote big club. Every transfer window, as a fan, I want my club to go out and purchase the best players that we can. Absolutely. But at what cost? Like if we're out there, going out and buying Latvia and Caicedo for 180 million pounds, why? Like why do I want that at the core? Well, I want to win. I want to watch a club that wins. But to go out and spend money on players like that just to spend money because that's what everyone expects the club to do doesn't always work out. And I think we did that in the past. We did that under Hicks and Gillette to some degree. They didn't spend a lot of money by any means, but they would go out and they would sign, Andy Carroll. They would sign Charlie Adam because, we got money. We got money from the Torres sale. Let's go reinvest it. Let's go spend it real quick. Look how that worked out. So I don't know this like quote unquote big club mentality that I see a lot of people talking about. Liverpool are a big club, and yet they haven't had to go out and, drop all this ridiculous money on players to get there. We were under Klopp. We were literally 4 or 5 matches, 4 or 5 goals, if you will, away from 4 or 5 more trophies. What would that look like today if those had happened, if the 2 extra Champions League titles and the 2 1-point losses in the Premier League to City, how would that change things now if we had that success instead of those narrow losses? I'll throw a question back at you, Aaron. What would it take for you to maybe not be a full-on FSG in guy, but what would it take for FSG to impress you as owners of Liverpool?
Just put their money where their mouth is. I want FSG to keep Liverpool in a strong position. We won the Premier League and we were desperate to strengthen from a position of strength.
Yeah.
We failed. And we had a terrible season the next season. And we had a lot of injuries the following season as well, because Klopp got his players to run through brick walls.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm quite I suppose I'm quite a fickle character. If they support the club, and they show that, listen, we are going to spend some money, we are going to get the right players, and we are going to strengthen. It's not only about getting the right player for the 11, but it's also about strengthening the squad as well, because football is a squad game, and we're so injury prone over the last 5 seasons that actually a really good squad player to come in, an Endo type player. I'd take a really good squad player right now and a good centre back and say, do you know what? If you brought them in, I'd walk away and say, do you know what? We can compete because we've got that little bit more depth.
Yeah.
You said something there before. Klopp was, so far away from winning an additional 4 or 5 trophies. Well, imagine he had the additional players to be able to compete that little bit extra in them trophies. That's where I'm with it. We had so many injuries. We had a centre-back crisis. Then we had a midfield crisis. We were playing Henderson and Fabinho as centre-backs when we clearly needed centre-back options. Sure. We went for the cheap option. We went for Kabak and Davies. Davies never played a minute of football, and Kabak was a calamity.
Yeah.
It's always next season we'll sort it out. Next season we'll sort it out. And then we get to that season, and I honestly, I believe, and listen, if FSG stay and Liverpool are strong and healthy and we do well in the league for the next 10 years, I won't care too much. Yeah. I'll be happy that the team is competing on all fronts. I'll be happy with that. But if we continue to get promised we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we get nothing. And I feel it was very structured. Transfer business this season was very structured. Oh, we're not going to do anything. We're going to wait till August. It's going to be a crescendo of, signings. And I think everything's going to ramp up in August. To then fail on the first signing, and then it's curtains, To get the fans up. And I listen, on other social media outlets at the moment, the FSG In brigade, is getting smaller. That is the truth.
Yeah,
there is a lot going on. And listen, you'll have seen it, mate. You'll have seen it in probably your comments.
Yeah,
there's a very negative feel in the fan base right now. And listen, we go and win our first 5 games, Sam, and people are probably saying, you know what, actually, I'll take the first 5 wins. There's some big games there. In the first 7 games, I think we played Chelsea and Man United in the first 7 games, and we got Chelsea and Arsenal in a row. We go and win 7 out of 8 games. I probably forget about the transfer window. And I think Liverpool, and I think FSG in particular, they thrive on that. They go, do you know what? We told you the team was good enough. And that's what I feel like it is every season, but it's a gamble.
Yeah.
We go and get beat 3 out of your first 6 games and draw 2. And we're in some trouble.
Yeah.
And what can we do about it? The transfer window's gone. And then it has to be January.
For sure.
And you know what? Do we just take panic buys in January because we need to try and claw back to try and fight for top 4? And then you're under panic straight away. And I just think it's an awful gamble that we take year in, year out. And this is where my nerves are jangling when it comes to, if we don't do the transfer business. I just fear at the start of the season that, maybe we don't. I mean, listen, we look good in pre-season. Yeah. And I'm happy with that. And Ipswich, we go and put these to the sword, play Brentford the week after, put them to the sword, go and beat Man United. I forget a little bit more about the transfer window, and I think they love that. When they get to the end of the season and we've beaten Man United, we've beaten Brentford, and we've beaten Ipswich, FSG will be like, we're right all along, and that's what we planned. Yeah, that's a gamble, and I don't like that gamble.
It's a gamble. It's a gamble the other way around, and I've said this before. You look at a team like Man United, right, who have been disappointing for a while now. They go out, and we weren't sure if Ten Hag was going to get renewed last year. He won the FA Cup, probably saved his job. Now he brings in 150 million euros, maybe more, worth of new players. What happens if United are still garbage? What happens if they come up against Liverpool in week 3? And it's what we saw in preseason, where Liverpool run all over them, score 3 or 4 goals, and United fail to score at all. What happens to United? What happens to Ten Hag? What happens to their club, who have just spent more money like they have every summer? So it's a gamble either way. I think Liverpool are in this position where it's like, you look at any club maybe besides Arsenal and City, and you could say, yeah, they're ready to compete as is. But like you said, if they want to compete on all fronts, certainly they need reinforcements, and I can't disagree with you there. We've seen that. We've seen how it worked in the past 5 years. There's just an inevitability of running out of steam, and yet none of us know what the Slot era holds. None of us know how he's going to, change the structure of training, change the science behind keeping his players healthy for a full season.
Fingers crossed.
So, Aaron, this was a great discussion. I feel like I've heard your side, and that you've really dictated that well. I would certainly love for our club to go out and find additional talent. Absolutely. I'm still in the camp of trusting the process a little bit, though. And the points about being a big club, we are a big club. Whether we spend or not, we're a big club because we're Liverpool. And yet, if I think we are in a position of strength right now. And what can the club do? What can FSG, what can Edwards Hughes do to solidify that, to make that a consistent thing so that it's not we did good this season, next season we do terrible. Oh, well, we're going to be good this season. How do we stay at that level? And I'm curious to know if Arne Slot can help us get there, and if FSG and the club leadership can support him in the ways that he needs to be supported with contract renewals, wages that match the market, and new signings that come in. And I think they will. I still believe that they will. And it might not be this summer, but I think they will.
It's crazy to think that and accept that. I find it crazy because you look at two examples, two very good seasons that Liverpool had. We pushed City the whole way and we lost the season by a point. The following season, we had the defender crisis. We scraped top four. Yeah, we got top four in the last few weeks. We were playing Nat Phillips and Reece Williams as our centre-back partnership at the end of the season I think they played about 11 games together.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in trouble. Fortunately enough for us, Chelsea were poor. Then we had a great season. I think we won the league after we had that poor season. And then after we won the league, we had a terrible season again. And we finished outside of the Champions League. I think we've had a good season last season. We've had a reasonable season last season. We won a trophy. We probably could have pushed for an additional trophy. I think we struggled, maybe fitness-wise towards the end of the season. But I think we were looking really good January-ish, and then we kind of fell apart February onwards.
Yeah.
I just think once you've got that strength, to not strengthen, to give yourself that little push, to be able to just make up that little bit of difference, you leave yourself open. We've got a new manager who isn't Klopp. Yeah. The players need to get behind Slot. Everyone's saying the right things about Slot, and I love it. Yeah. His tactics, the way he trains, everything sounds amazing. I just hopefully it reflects on the pitch. Yeah. If it reflects on the pitch, like I said, December we're floating around the top few spots, and we're very, very close, to that sort of first place. Then maybe they were right.
Maybe. And
I just think it's an awful gamble.
You splash some cash on a midfielder or maybe a center back. I don't know.
That's why I love the channel. I love your optimism, Sam. I love your optimism.
I think it does all I think you hit it on the head. It does all come down to what happens on the field, right? Mm-hmm. If Liverpool come out flying and Gravenberch and Bajcetic, they're ready. They seize the moment. Are the FSG Out crowd really, really still upset about but we're in first place at Christmas, but remember we didn't sign anybody. We still want John Henry to sell.
That's a good point. It's a good point. I think they go quiet.
I think they go quiet. To what happens on the field, right?
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
But you watch, if we're in fifth place come December and we are 20 points behind Man City and Arsenal, it could get very, very, it could get a bit scary out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Let us know what you think in the comments. I can't wait to read them. I think this is going to be a pretty hot topic. It's a hot topic right now. We already know this. Social media is alight with FSG versus FSG out versus FSG in. I hope to keep it civil in the comments section. Be kind, please. And I'm sure Aaron and I will see you there. As always, we're all on the same team here, right? We just want Liverpool to succeed. We want to watch good quality football. We want our club to win. So we'll leave it with Up the Reds.
Yeah, of course.